It's finally over. So the sharks are beginning to swarm. The water is beginning to get red. And it's finally over. We know what happened with Biden and his horrible performance at the debate. But if you need a little bit of a recap,
Concur with Justice Sotomayor's dissent today. Here's what she said. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote.
yeah, so he was just there reading off a teleprompter. His cognitive skills are gone. He is barely there. He is just essentially just carrying on and being told to say and do what he's told to do. That's it. Some, other people are in charge. And, we saw him during the debate. We saw how he did with Trump. He did not know what the hell was going on. He didn't know where he was, what he was saying. I mean, in the end, Jill Biden actually had to come and escort him off the stage, and it was an absolute disgrace. You know, he was breaking up. He was making mistakes. He was not very coherent. It was a very sad reality, a very very sad reality watching this. And Tim Pool called it out easily more than a years ago, that this was a disgrace, a national disgrace, a travesty, and that it was clear to everyone what was actually happening as this guy was stumbling over his words.
Do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
Yeah, so that's what happens when he is not allowed to read off a teleprompter. He doesn't know what the heck he's saying. As you can see, at the end of his teleprompter speech in the previous video, he literally says, like, end of quote, because he's reading off a teleprompter.
End of quote.
End of quote. End of quote. Because he's reading off the teleprompter. This guy cannot have a coherent conversation anymore. And the sharks are beginning to circle. They want their piece of the pie. They want, they're stepping in right now. I'm shocked to see this guy, but, I thought the ghost of Andrew Yang was just that, a ghost, but evidently it has now progressed into a poltergeist. I thought that it was below ground and buried, and but no, guess who's back again. It's like Beetlejuice saying it 3 times, but Mr. UBI himself, the man of the hour, Mr. Andrew Yang.
To our top story, concerns over Joe Biden's campaign after his debate performance last week. Earlier this afternoon, Congressman Lloyd Doggett of Texas became the first sitting Democrat to call for Biden to step aside. And a House Democratic lawmaker just told me moments ago that there's, quote, a large and increasing group of House Democrats concerned about the president's candidacy, representing a broad swath of the caucus. We are deeply concerned about his trajectory and his ability to win. We want to give him space to make a decision, meaning to step aside, but we will be increasingly vocal about our concerns if he doesn't. Another to suggest that Biden's time is up is 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang, who's with us now. He's now co-chair of the Forward Party. Andrew, no indication right now, though, that Biden has any plans to step aside. I'm not sure if you just saw the White House press briefing, but it was certainly illuminating in that regard. Would you ultimately support Biden if he is the candidate against Trump in November?
Well, I think there are many conversations happening behind the scenes right now, Brianna, where objective people within the Democratic Party are evaluating the ticket and saying that if you want to defeat Trump in November, Joe Biden is not the right person at the top of the ticket. There are many swing district and swing state members who think that their jobs are going to be on the line based upon whether Joe Biden is still at the top of the ticket. And I think these conversations are heating up, not cooling down.
What do you think will happen? And I'm not just talking about the White House. I'm talking about Congress, the Senate, the House. I'm talking about in the states. What do you think would happen if Biden does not step aside?
I think the Democrats would lose the House and the Senate as well as the White House if Joe Biden was at the top of the ticket. It's one reason why I believe the right thing for him to do is to step aside for the good of the party and the country. I personally do not want to see Donald Trump return to the White House. And I see that as essentially a certainty if Joe Biden is the nominee.
Now, here's where things get very interesting. So, who are they trying to line up to replace Joe Biden? So, you know, the media is in a free fall. We know that the media is leftist and they're all in cahoots with, you know, the left. But they are basically now trying to line, because remember the saying, presidents are selected, not elected.
Doggett releasing a statement today saying Biden should withdraw. This comes days after the presidential debate. The president facing a lot of criticism for his performance. ABC's Perry Russom has the latest.
For the first time, a sitting Democratic member of Congress is calling for President Biden to withdraw from the race for president. Congressman Lloyd Doggett from Texas writing, President Biden's first commitment has always been to our country, not himself. I'm hopeful that he will make the painful and difficult decision to withdraw. I respectfully call on him to do so. Biden's ability to run for a second term was called into question after his performance in last week's debate.
With the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Today, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, the former House Speaker, on MSNBC.
I think it's a legitimate question to say, is this an episode or is this a condition?
The White House backing the president.
He had a cold and a bad night. I would not see this as an episode. I would see this as what it was and what we believe it to be, which is it was a bad night.
It comes as there's fallout in the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity. Sources tell ABC News Trump's legal team is arguing for the guilty verdicts in his felony hush money trial to be thrown out. Trump's lawyers saying the jury was presented evidence they believe should have been protected under presidential immunity.
This not only reshapes the presidency, it can reshape the entire functioning of American democracy.
So, guys, yeah, it's not looking very good for old Joe right now. Okay, the sharks are beginning to circle in. They're beginning to line up and say, hey, we want a piece of that. We want a shot right now. And they're beginning to, pick out candidates to replace him. Everyone from Gavin Newsom to, maybe even people already in the White House.
So, Steve, yesterday you'd mentioned that there are some brand new head-to-head polls out of New Hampshire, but we now also have some new national polling. What kind of insight does this give us? Is the race moving at all?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got 3 polls now, last 24 hours, all conducted after the debate. Just go through them here. You can see a couple things. You're not seeing major shifts in these polls, but of course, in a race like this, it wouldn't take a major shift to be pretty decisive. CNN poll released this afternoon, Trump 49, Biden 43. Now, obviously, a 6-point lead for Trump. That's very eye-catching here. Keep in mind, though, last time CNN polled this race, this was back in April, some time ago, but the last time they polled this race, they also found 49-43. When they found this result back in April, that then was the biggest margin Trump was leading by in any poll at that time. A lot of other polls then were much closer. This was largely dismissed as an outlier poll. Now, could this one be too? We'll see as more polls come out in the coming days. One thing to keep in mind, when you get an outlier, often it's the result of sort of a statistical blip with your sampling. It can happen from time to time, but when that happens, you'd usually expect that the next poll wouldn't have the same problem. So could this be 2 outliers, or is this perhaps more accurately measuring right now than back in April in the CNN poll? Because the other thing to keep in mind in the CNN poll is that question of Kamala Harris. They tested as well Harris against Biden. So again, you see Trump leading Biden, Harris against Trump, excuse me. You see Trump leading Biden 49-43. When you put Harris in this poll, that 6-point gap for the Democrats comes down to 2 points. So they have Harris doing better than Biden. They also, CNN did, it checked 3 other Democrats against Trump. None of them were beating Trump, but all of them were closer than Biden. 4 Democrats in total that CNN polled. So that's a little context for that 6-point margin in the Trump-Biden race in their poll. You mentioned it. I'm sorry. This is the Suffolk USA Today poll. This, a national poll, also new today. Now, again, this poll, you see Trump with a 3-point advantage over Biden. Notice they included Kennedy. They included a number of other third-party candidates. It's why these totals for Trump and Biden are a bit on the low end, just generally speaking.
So, I mean, guys, they're basically in a dismal spiral right now. And technically speaking, you know, this would have to happen within the next couple of months. They would have to basically say, you know, Joe, you're not going to go. Guys, think about this. You know, right now, we're what, 4 months away? So July to August, September, September to October, October, November. That is 4 months away. We are literally 4 months away from election. 4 months away from the presidential election, and in 4 months, someone needs to now go, you know, replace Biden and raise a significant amount of money. It costs a lot of money to run for president, hundreds of millions of dollars to run for president, and what, Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom, you know, or some other contender is going to step up and raise hundreds of millions of dollars, because the money that Biden has raised, that money has to be returned to donors. They cannot, you know, that was donated specifically to the Biden campaign. So to my understanding, they cannot just take that money and transfer it over to Kamala Harris. No, she would have to basically start over from the beginning again and go and raise funds. And of course, these things are shams. Many people don't even trust the process anymore. But this is a very interesting and ridiculous thing. So with literally 4 months before the election, you're going to change the candidate and put someone else in there and tell everyone, okay, well, you know, despite everything, you know, this new contender is going to come in and win it. A person who's not even running and hasn't even been campaigning. Like, how much? And Kamala Harris, guys, does this make sense to you? Kamala Harris and a bunch of other people other than Biden, when polled, are very close to Trump. How the heck are these people close to Trump? Well, you know, in terms of surveys, when they're not even running or they're not campaigning. Like, this, it's very, very questionable. But of course, just like how 2020 was questionable, you know, people will do what they want to. You know, like I said, presidents are selected, not elected. What do you guys think regarding this? Do you agree it's finally over? Let me know your thoughts. We'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWM and walking away. And cheers.